Israel is at war. The Palestinians have attacked Israel. Palestinians have promised, or Hamas has promised, to annihilate Israel, and Israel has promised to annihilate Hamas, or the Palestinians that are attacking them. Now the question is, who has the power to annihilate which? Has there been signs that we could have let us know that this conflict was going to happen? And I also want to provide you guys information that may help you to have an overall look over this conflict. These are the things that are going to be covered in today's video. So without any further ado, let's get into today's video. Hi, as I mentioned in the introduction, I'm going to be talking about the situation in Israel, or the Israel war. I want you guys to keep in mind that this conflict began just 24 hours ago, and I'm trying to put this video together, so it's going to be a very brief video, and I'm going to try to oversimplify things as I normally do to you guys. But I want to shine some light on what's happening, how we got here, and what can we see happening in the future, what would be the consequences of this conflict. Now, coincidentally, this conflict is happening precisely 50 years and 1 day since the war of Yom Kippur. And if you want to find out more about the Yom Kippur war, and if you want us to do a video for you guys about it, please let me know on the comments below, and I'll put a video to you guys. Now, I also expect not everyone who's watching this video to know where Israel is. So I decided to put together here, I decided to put in this particular slide an image of Israel. And the red dots shows more presence of the military forces of Israel on the north portion of Israel. And of course, this conflict is happening on the south part of Israel, where the defense is not as strong as on the north part. And of course, if you have an opponent that you want to attack, you will want to attack your opponent where there's the least presence of defense for that opponent. This is true for a one-on-one conflict between two human beings, and is also true for nations war. You look for the weakest spot, and this is why the attack is happening on the south part. Now, there's many things that has happened just this year alone. I'm not going to talk about things that has happened beyond this year, at least not much. I'm going to try to focus on events that has happened this year. And there has been tensions sparked by Palestinians over Al-Aqsa storm operation. In their view, they want to protect the Al-Aqsa mosque. The Al-Aqsa mosque is the mosque that you see here, and is one of the three most significant mosques for Muslims. And of course, it is in a region which is also a biblical region, and there's a lot of things in this territory. And this territory is pretty much very important for Jewish, Christians, and Muslims, the three Abrahamic religions. Now, since we're talking about the three Abrahamic religions, I want to open a new bracket here to give you guys a little bit of context into this. Abraham is the patriarch of three main religions: Jewish, Christians, and Muslims. So the thing is, Abraham had a wife that could not provide him a child. And then with the approval of God and his wife, Abraham got a concubine. And that concubine was part of the household of Abraham, and she was the mother of Abraham's first son. And his first son and his descendant is supposed to be the Muslim people. And later, Abraham's wife was able by God enabled her to provide Abraham with a son. And then Abraham had a son with his original wife, and the descendants of that son are the Jews. Now the narrative and the conflict goes, Muslims see themselves as the descendants of the firstborn of Abraham, and the Jewish see themselves as the true descendants of Abraham, because of course they are the son of the wife of Abraham, the official wife, not the concubine. And of course this is a way for me to oversimplify the origin of this conflict. So the Palestinians are the Muslims and the Israelis are the Jews. I'm just oversimplifying because I'm not sure what is your level of knowledge if you're watching this video. My idea is to make things as simple as possible. And if someone have a problem with this, please understand I'm trying to make things as simple as possible. But this is a conflict that's going to be going on for a very long time, which is a conflict between Muslims and Jews. Now, the three of those groups, the Christians, Muslims, and Jews, they're all tied to this Abrahamic region, or the biblical region, where they have their temples, and there is an agreement among them to respect the rights and access of the three religions to this particular area. Now, there has been some violation and some disrespect to that agreement, and of course that's why Palestinians have now, at least that is their narrative. I'm not saying to you what's happening, I'm sharing with you their narrative. So Palestinians are aiming to defeat Israel because of a few things that has happened in that particular mosque. Now also, they are coming at a very precise time, not just 50 years and 1 day, but there's also some turmoil or some chaos on the political situation of Israel. The Israeli leader has already declared that Israel will counterattack, and he said that victory is inevitable and there will be severe consequences for the attackers. We're going to be talking more about why he's talking about severe consequences for the attacker a bit further in this video. Now, Hamas has launched an operation named after the mosque called Al-Aqsa, seeking support. Now, they're seeking support from Iraq and Syria and Lebanon. And the thing is, I believe they're gonna get the support. I think this support has already been prearranged before the attack. I don't see the Hamas making this attack without the pre-approval or the pre-agreement support of Iran, Syria, Lebanon, and even Iraq. Now, here I want to open a bracket and I want to mention a video that I have done before in this channel. 4 months ago, I made a video when Israel gave the okay or the green light for the US to provide or to supply Zelensky with an Iron Dome. An Iron Dome is a military technology that belongs to Israel. Israel has total say to what happens to that technology, and pretty much is something which allows air defense to nullify missile attacks. I'm not going to talk too much about what is an Iron Dome. You can find out what that is, but when that approval came, I remember making a video on this channel and talking about this would be a very dangerous move for Israel, because as far as I know, the security of Israel, yes, is mostly provided by Americans, but Vladimir Putin has a strong alliance with Iran and he provides certain defense to Israel. And of course, once Israel starts to give an okay to support to Ukraine, I saw the possibility of an attack to Israel. And I think, and this is my speculation, this is my opinion, this is nothing that is verifiable, no news have said this, but I cannot see this attack without some approval of Vladimir Putin. This is my own opinion, it's my speculation. If I find some evidence to back this up, I'll supply this to you guys. But now I want to share with you guys my video from 4 months ago. So this is the footage. Iron Dome ready for deployment in Ukraine. It's been said by the US general. Now, Iron Dome is a technology that protects against missiles. It can attack and destroy several missiles at once. And this technology has been developed by Israel, and Israel has the monopoly on this technology and also has the monopoly on what happens to this technology. The thing is, if Israel gives this to Ukraine, there's a few other geopolitical problems that may occur. The borders of Israel depend heavily on the protection of Russia. Russia has the ability to protect and patrol the sky and protect Israel from attacks from, for instance, Iran. Now, if indeed Israel makes this available to Ukraine, that relationship will be sour. So, as you can see on the video, it was 4 months ago, I mentioned that it was not a good move. You can see here that Vladimir Putin is sitting with the leader of Iran, and Iran is, in my view, the strongest geopolitical enemy of Israel. Now, there was a few other things that also triggered that. You can see here, one of the triggers is the dispute over religious events. You can see here, with tensions high, dozens of anti-Christian protests rally outside the Jerusalem event. So, as I mentioned, in Israel, there's this area that is important for the three religions. And this now is the headlines on Israeli operation on Al-Aqsa Mosque. So the current leader of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, he's making some alliances, and according to the narrative, he's violating some religious rights, or he's making it difficult for Palestinians to be able to have free access to an area and to be able to perform their religious rituals. Now, also another thing that has triggered and kind of boiled down to this situation was an operation called Jenin, where Israelis attacked a refugee camp and they killed 12 Palestinians. And you can see here a map, and you can see it was a refugee camp in January 26, several Palestinians killed, others seriously injured during an Israeli raid. And of course, this Jenin is further on the north of Israel, as you can see on the map here. The Israeli police apparently entered the mosque and arrested some people, and of course, that is not acceptable for the Muslims. Muslims, in their view, if you are not Muslim, you should not even set foot on that region. That is the region or the area of that mosque which is sacred to Muslims. And in their view, Israel is not respecting the agreement or not respecting the peace among the three religions or among the two religions, in this case, Judaism and Islam. Now, that's the narrative of the Muslims. The issue is the narrative of Israel is a different one. According to the Jewish narrative, they were not having a religious ceremony at that time of the operation. They were having a meeting where they were promoting or planning to attack Israel. Now, of course, that is the narrative of the Israeli police or the Israeli force, which is, of course, opposing the narrative of the Muslims. And the thing is, the images such as this one, where you see women dressed and covered in the mosque, and you see the police there standing on a ground where they should not be even standing if they were not Muslims, that triggers a lot of animosity and a lot of desire to further have violence or plan attack toward Israel. I'm not sure which narrative is correct. I'm just sharing with you guys the narrative on both sides. But the thing is, we need to understand the enemy in order to be able to have a conflict or have a chance of victory. The Hamas, in my view, in terms of timing, they were really perfect timing. 50 years and 1 day, plus they're taking advantage of the situation that Israel finds itself in. And the situation is the following. There's a question about how good is the governance or how well is the governance of Israel and the US. The two countries seem to have been a turmoil in terms of governance. And in the case of Benjamin Netanyahu, he's already under investigation, and you can see this headline is from January 2017, and the situation has not improved. So they're attacking Israel when Israel is divided in a political turmoil. Remember, divide and conquer, and Israel is very divided by the actions of Benjamin Netanyahu. So which actions, you may ask? So one of the actions, and these are recent ones, I'm not going to go to other scandals of corruption, I'm going to go to the most recent events. So Benjamin Netanyahu got reelected, making partnerships with people who are considered to be anti-Palestinians. This is not my narrative. This is something that you can see on the headlines. This is not my opinion. It's the opinion of the news broadcast here. So you can see Netanyahu's coalition, a collection of ultra-nationalists and ultra-religious lawmakers, which was earlier this year. And he says it was necessary to rein an unelected judiciary they believe wields too much power. Critics say that this is a profound threat to the Israeli democracy and that would concentrate too much power on the hands of Benjamin Netanyahu and his allies. So the thing is, he had made some motion to diminish the amount of power from the judicial system and, of course, put more power on his hands. And, of course, that is seen as a threat to democracy, and it's also seen as one of the first steps of someone who wants to become a dictator. So once he takes power of the judicial system, the West and a few other countries, and even some people in Israel themselves, are seeing this as a motion of him trying to become a dictator. These are their words, not my words. Other thing that is being adding, like feeding the feeling of animosity among Palestinians, is the fact that in this area you have Muslims and Jews and they can't really agree. It's very difficult to be friends in terms of nation. But there has been an agreement of certain areas to be for the Palestinians, the Muslims, and some areas to be for the Israelis. Now the thing is, there have been some villages built for Jewish people on an area where should be mostly Palestinians. This action from Benjamin Netanyahu has been criticized even by the UN. As the UN criticized, also Israel criticized some actions from the UN. You can see here in this case, the UN actually added a site which is on the Palestinian territory as to be added to the list of the World Heritage, which are some ruins on ancient Jericho. And of course, Israel now criticized UN for listing that area. So there's already some animosity between UN and Israel leader Benjamin. Now, in my view, and this is my opinion, is me speculating, there is no news to back this up, it's my view on this. This may be the reason why there has been no recent meetings between the US leader and the Prime Minister Benjamin. So Israel leader and the US leaders are not meeting for a very long time, I think almost a year now. And I think that lack of visit is because it's a way of the US saying, we're not approving what you're doing, Benjamin. Now, you can see here the headlines. The White House ends months long and invite Benjamin Netanyahu to visit the US. Now, even though these headlines came out, there's no date set yet. So I think the idea or the motion or the actions that are considered to be anti-Palestinians from Benjamin may be the reason why the US leader, in this case Joe Biden, is not visiting him. Now, it's not just the UN and the US and some Israelis disapproving the actions of Benjamin. We also have companies, the private sector, you can see here, Israel's tech companies are fighting Netanyahu and they're leaving the startup nation. So Netanyahu is having disapproval from within, from UN, from the US, and from the private sector. And of course, the Hamas is seeing this as a sign of weakness and it is the time to attack. Now, other disapproval internal is, as I mentioned, the military reservists are refusing to train in protest of a far-right government. The language of this specific reservists is they are refusing to train or support what they call to be a dictatorship or an eventual dictatorship. So the disapproval of the actions of Benjamin has been pretty much across the board, private sector, internal, external, as you guys can see. Now, it's important to understand, at least in my view, that the primary support for Israel comes from the US. And the US is also facing a political turmoil. There's questions about the governance on the US. And the most recent event, of course, was last week, they ousted the McCarthy. And of course, that shows that the US is very divided. So if the US is divided and far away, or there's a distance increasing between the two leaders, and the two leaders are facing their own turmoil within their own nation, I think it's a perfect moment for the Hamas to attack. I think that's a judgment that they may have made. Now, what makes this attack very difficult to witness is the fact that Palestinians' attack, Muslims' attack, tend to be very different from the Israel attack. And there was an attack on the Munich massacre. I want to be talking a bit more further in this video, but now, of course, they're attacking civilians. And of course, it's very difficult for you to watch this and not feel inclined to be on the side of Israel. They have already launched, by the time I'm shooting this video, more than 5,000 rockets, and there has been over 300 people already killed by this massacre. This picture I know looks very beautiful. These are not fireworks. Those are rockets being launched on civilian areas. Now, the Hamas have also been able to, on this surprise attack, to destroy a very powerful tank from Israel. And this attack is a very difficult one because besides the rockets, they have used small cars, small vehicles, and they have gone to attack civilians. And of course, there's a question, since Netanyahu is under turmoil, how is it that the Mossad could not see this? How could this attack be planned and executed very successful without the Israeli authorities being able to foresee this? This picture is very revealing. The Hamas group being able to destroy a very powerful tank. Now, Netanyahu has already said that Israel is at war and he already guaranteed the victory, and he said that his enemies are going to pay. And I think he's saying that because of the Munich massacre. And if you do not know about the Munich massacre, I'm going to again oversimplify here to you guys, but there has been an Olympic game where Muslims went and they kill the athletes that are supposed to be competing on the name of Israel. And what that attack did is it put Israel in a situation where they felt compelled to give or to deliver a very strong retaliation, a very strong response. And they did for the first time after that massacre one thing they have never done before, which is to plan assassinations on European territory. So the Mossad, after this, was pretty much, they felt compelled and they felt they could use this attack as leverage to go and plan assassinations outside their territory, in European territory. And of course, the European authorities did not retaliate because it was quite shocking to see all the athletes, or not all the athletes, but some of the athletes on the Olympic Games. The Olympic event should be an event where nations meet in peace and they compete on sportsmanship. So, of course, that was a very strong retaliation. The Israeli Mossad intelligence, they carry out many assassinations. It took over 20 years to assassinate the leaders responsible for that particular event. And of course, I think this event will give even more power to Israel to go and do things that they have never done before. Another thing that I think this conflict will do is going to diminish the turmoil within the governance. I think the division that is happening within Israel, where there's a lot of opposing criticism within the nation, I think that's going to be overlooked. And now Benjamin Netanyahu is going to become even more powerful. So you can see he already responded here. He already launched an operation to counterattack the Palestinians, and they have already killed 230 of them after the Hamas operation. You can see here this scene. Look at this picture, which is a destruction of what seems to be a civilian building. So you can see the amount of destruction that has been caused on the civilian territory. And as I mentioned, I think the consequence of this will be the overlook or diminishing the importance of Netanyahu as a dictator, according to the narrative that we have. And I think that's going to make him even more powerful because now they have a common enemy to attack. Another thing that the Hamas have been able to do is they have kidnapped some militaries and have separated some families. And I think they want to use this to exchange prisoners, which is another reason what I think contribute to this turmoil is the fact that Israel has stopped doing the exchange of prisoners with Muslims. Now, other thing that I already saw on the media, on social media, is some policemen attacking people that may look Palestinian. And I can understand that when you see those scenes and you see the level of the attack that is being delivered to Israel, I can understand some policemen and even some civilians feeling an enormous emotion and start to attack and create great animosity between civilians themselves. I can see how this, I'm not saying this is going to justify, but this is going to cause people to feel that it's justifiable to attack Palestinians, and Palestinians may attack Jewish. I think the civilian consequence of this is going to be really massive. Now, when Israel has promised to retaliate and to deliver a retaliation on a counterattack, or saying that the enemy is going to pay a price that they have never paid before, or on the magnitude they have never paid before, you may ask yourself, how strong is Israel? And of course, you can see here, it is among the 10 most powerful countries and is the 4th strongest military. And then you may ask, well, how powerful is Hamas? And Hamas is not as strong as Israel. Israel can actually end this conflict very quickly because they have much more military power. And then, of course, the other question is, if Israel is so powerful, why is Hamas attacking an enemy that is as strong as Israel? And my answer to this is because of the political pressure. Not every conflict has to do with how powerful you are militarily in comparison to your opponent. And the best example of this, in my view, is of course the Pearl Harbor. Japan knew they could not win, but the US were sanctioning Japan, and of course that caused Japan to think there's no other option but to attack. And I think all the things that I mentioned in this video previously, the operation on the mosque, the way in which Benjamin seems to be making alliance with anti-Palestinians, the violation or diminishing the freedom of the rights of the religious movement or the religious access to the religious ceremony in an area which is important for the 3 religions and so on. Those things are political actions that may trigger an opponent to pursue a military attack where they have very little chance of succeeding. Same thing with the situation in Japan. And I think I have made a video about this to you guys. So please, if you want to find out more conflicts that may be triggered by political reasons, please subscribe, click the notification bell, because I'm going to be making more videos about this in the next 24 hours. And another situation, of course, in my view, is Taiwan, where the US is making some alliance with Taiwan, which politically may push China to attack Taiwan, but I do not want to deviate the attention from this attack. I think Hamas and Iran has done this attack on Israel because of political reasons. And yes, they would not stand a chance when Israel tried to retaliate. And it's not just Israel that's gonna be retaliating against them. NATO countries have already said that they would support Israel. NATO has not come forward yet, at least not by the time of shooting this video, but the NATO countries have already expressed their support to Israel. And this is just one post of Ursula von der Leyen, where she says that Israel has a right to defend itself against these attacks. Now, another question that we may be asking during this conflict is, which conflict is more important? If NATO countries pretty much will be helping Israel, and they have already mentioned that they don't have enough ammunition, the question is, which conflict is more important to the nation, to NATO countries? And in my view, between Israel and Ukraine, if they have to choose, are we going to allocate our resources to help Israel, or are we going to allocate our resources to help Ukraine? They're going to focus on Israel and leave Ukraine behind. That's my view. If you do not agree with me, please let me know in the comments below. I'm also preparing a video for you guys where we look at the war and look at the evidence and see who is winning this war, Ukraine or Russia. If you want to find out more, if you want to know about that video, please subscribe and click the notification bell so you'll be notified when that video comes live. Now, what are the consequences? What can we see from this moment forward? And I think there's two chances, right? One is this could finish very quickly or could drag for a very long time. Now, there is different variables that we need to take into consideration when we look at this question. Would it finish quickly or would it drag long? Well, if you look at how much power Israel has, plus the help that they're going to get from NATO countries, this could finish very quickly. Or it could also drag for a very long time, depending on how much power or how much effort is going to be put to help the attackers or Hamas or Muslims. And I think the main player here is Iran. And I think Iran is going to be receiving help from Russia and possibly from China. This is a point for discussion, but the Russian government will, or Vladimir Putin will definitely help Iran. So now let's say there is a quick finish to this. Let's say it ends very quickly. We will expect, or I would be expecting, the Muslims and the Shihads and the Hamas to reorganize and plan a further attack. So even though it may finish quickly, this is not the end. This territory, there will be forever war. I don't see the possibility of peace in this area between Israel and Palestinians, at least not in my lifetime. So even though this battle, let's say, may finish very quickly, this is a conflict that will be dragging for a very long because they will reorganize and they will plan a counterattack. And I think Iran and those forces eventually will be receiving a nuclear weapon. If you want to find out about the road of geopolitics from the nuclear view, look at our video on the geopolitics of nuclear power. I have also made a video explaining why countries go to war. I think those two videos may help you guys to have a greater understanding of this conflict. So let's go for a recap. We cover very briefly what's happening, how we got here, and the consequences. I'm going to be looking more at what's happening and I'm going to be reporting more to you guys, but this is, I think, is a good starting point for you guys to have a view on things that are happening. We also talk about how we got here, the political things that the Prime Minister of Israel has been doing that has caused animosity and got us here. And we also discuss briefly about the consequences. Now, once again, I want to emphasize this. These are oversimplified explanations to this. The things are much deeper. I couldn't possibly, in a 15-20 minute video, cover the whole thing, but I think this is enough for you guys to have a good view on this. Now, if you want to find out more about the geopolitical events such as this and how they affect your assets, and also if you want to become more in control of your money, consider joining our academy. Links on the description below. Other consequences. Now, one more consequence that I was reluctant to say to you guys, but I think I have the obligation to provide that to you guys, is that I think there's going to be a very violent retaliation. I think it's impossible for Israel not to invade Gaza with terrestrial force, with tanks, soldiers, boots on the ground. And I think that kind of invasion, that kind of response will be very violent. And I think it's going to be very difficult for the entire world to see and to witness this. I also think most of the West will be on the side of Israel. And of course, this kind of violence, this kind of retaliation will cause the opposing force to even justify even greater violence. That's my view. I really wish to be wrong, but that's my view on some of the consequences of this conflict. So remember, this video was just an introduction to this whole conflict, and I hope this video provides you guys with enough information to have an overall look over this conflict. I'm going to be preparing more videos. As a matter of fact, I already have more materials being prepared to let you guys know what's happening on this conflict. I also have made a video which was supposed to come up today to you guys on how to predict or how to foresee the actions of dictators. That video also is going to be coming between the videos on Israel. So please subscribe, click the notification bell so that you'll be notified as soon as that video comes out. Also, if you know someone who can benefit from the content of this video, please do share. This is it for now. See you guys in the next video.